Speed.
Okay.
Okay, we'll try this again. What's your name?
My name is Nancy Parker.
Nancy. And where are you from, Nancy?
I'm from northern Minnesota and have relocated here to Iowa several years ago.
And tell me what you do here at Iowa.
My title here is the Senior Associate Director of Student Services for Student Athletes.
And what does that, you want me to be on this side? Okay. In that role, what exactly do you do for student athletes here?
For student athletes here at the university, we offer and supply academic support and academic structure to enhance their university experience and assure that they're going to be as successful as they possibly can be here.
You know, there's a lot of, when we're doing this filming, we see, there's a lot of demands made on these kids' time. They spend a lot of hours out on the field, a lot of hours out in the weight room and everything. Tell us about the kind of programs that you do to help these kids, because this university is rigorous enough even if you don't have a job on the field like they do.
It's exactly why we supply the service. We recognize the rigor of the university as a major research institution, as well as the rigor of Division I, Big Ten college sports. So we supply that structure by offering tutoring and prescribed retention services. We offer classes that help students establish a grounding as quickly as they can to the institution, supply them as many time management strategies as we can, or personal management and organizational strategies that they can apply as quickly as they can, and should they choose to, in order to more effectively manage their student experience here.
You mentioned the rigors of this university and that it's a research university. I mean, how do you deal with, as a Division I athletic school, all your sports recruit, top athletes from around the country. And some of these kids haven't had the preparatory education. What kind of assistance can you bring to that kid from inner city Detroit, or that kid from Memphis or something, or that rural kid from Georgia, who grew up in the farm area or something and maybe didn't have that access to a private education, or maybe just a small public school or an urban public school education?
Or small town Iowa, for that matter. We take a good look at who we're bringing in at the front end. And by taking a good look, we're able to assess what their preparation and readiness is for college work. If we identify students who we think may not be adequately prepared, we then incorporate them into a retention program, as I alluded, which is prescribed, regular, multi-meetings with students during the course of the week to check out their progress, to assist them where they need some assistance, to hold them accountable for getting their work done in the little time that they have to do it, in which to do it, and build that sense of order and structure and discipline, just like is occurring out on the field. It's a real partnership that way.
That's great. That's great. So, you're speaking of that partnership, I'm going to do a little scenario here. I do this with some of the coaches. So I'm going to take you, Ms. Parker. What if Coach Ferentz calls you up and says, hey, I want you to go down and meet with this family and this young man that we want to bring, from, rural Ohio or rural Iowa. And you're in that family room. And, a lot of times it's, Dad may say, I want him to go to Iowa because I want him to go to the NFL, but Mom's more worried about his education. So you tell me, what do you tell those parents of that young man who's maybe concerned about their son going off to a big, rigorous school like this?
The message I like to deliver to families is that in spite of this being a big institution, we're very small, and a small in a sense of community here. We care more about the success that you have over the course of 4 or 5 years in every domain of your life, including sports, but not just about sports. Our goal is to make sure that your son or your daughter is a successful student all the way around before they graduate. And while we don't mother or father your children, we stay with them. We supply them that net and that support, hold them accountable, nudge them along, encourage and support, and get them about their business of becoming a grown adult and responsible for their own lives. That's what we're trying to do.
That's great. Is that all right?
Are you
Luckily,
dying?
we're editing this.
Just kind of
He's gonna
scratching my
live.
throat. I'm like, I'd like to ask one question. When you answer, still answer to Jim though. It seems to me like, we talked to a lot of these kids and teachers and whatnot. The what they can learn in class, really can, it helps them mature as a person, which in turn helps them on the field as well. Can you talk a little bit about that? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think the idea of what they acquire in a class, what they acquire with getting along with their roommates, how they handle themselves when they're in public, say downtown, translates to the success that they have on the field, and vice versa. The extent to which they're coachable and they take direction, they overcome their mistakes, they recognize where they're messing up and then change in order to improve. There is a direct, symbiotic relationship there, interrelational relationship, and that's what it comes down to for us, is getting to know, learning about, and hooking with these students so that we're all in the game for the same reason. You can't do that unless you know and can get to know these students and help earn the trust by caring what they're about and what it is that they want to accomplish.
Excellent.
That's great.
Excellent. Let's talk about the development. We've talked a little bit about academics and the programs that you offer. You were talking about how they behave downtown, how they interact with their roommates and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about, do you have any programs that assist in life skills? Beyond football, beyond academics, in just becoming a good citizen.
Let's see. Yesterday, if I can just use some recent examples. Yesterday we hosted a leadership and character conference for high school kids here, for kids throughout the state of Iowa, student athletes. And we had our students serving as panelists, including 2 students in football, who spoke about the growth, the maturity, and the experience that they've had, and the advice that they would give to students as they're thinking about their choices for college and the next stage in their lives. They spoke about the rigor, they spoke about the challenge, they spoke about finding the right place even if you don't play, and being happy where you are. Those are messages that only come from experience. That's one example. Another example is tomorrow evening, for example, we're going to host a business network simulation in which our students are going to be able to meet and greet, make first impressions with former student athletes and now professionals who have returned to the community and are living here, as a way to practice and learn how to handle themselves in a professional setting. We offer alcohol skills training programs for our students, which are really rooted in a bystander education framework. What that means is learning how to step up and affect a situation or intervene in a situation when you are in a public setting and you see behavior that's inappropriate, either from your teammates or from people on the street. Learning how to handle yourself in an adult way and taking that step and being a really visible leader.
That's great.
Those are a couple of examples that we have.
That's fantastic. How are we doing on sound with that? Do you hear that siren?
It's not horrible.
It's not horrible.
Should be done in about 10 seconds.
Okay. All right.
I just want you to know I got a recruit coming in here shortly.
Okay,
we can
we're
wrap
gonna
this up.
I got one last question then.
Yep,
And then you can add whatever I missed.
yep.
Here's my question to you. These young men, these young ladies that come in here, that you interface with, and they come in here sometimes at 17, just barely 18 years old.
We have a 15-year-old here,
A 15-year-old.
15-year-old young woman in track.
Wow. So talk to me about what you feel, when you see these young ladies or these young men come in here as truly children and they leave as adults. Tell me what that process is like for you, those relationships, what sense you feel from those things, from that development.
I got an example to share. really, in terms of seeing a student grow from a high school adolescent, fairly self-consumed, to a budding and emerging adult, 22 years old, is probably the biggest rush that I'll ever experience as a professional, as an educator. That's what we're here for. Yesterday, one of the keynote speakers talked about it's way beyond the wins and the losses. It's about seeing somebody who has finally acquired a sense of responsibility and taking the step to be responsible for his or her own life, assuming the risks, recognizing the consequences, knowing when they've messed up, and then getting about correcting it and moving on with their lives. One guy, you may not end up using this, one guy, a former football student, was pretty unhappy here. At the time he was not playing much and decided to leave the institution. And that came with a variety of attitudes about, well, it's not my responsibility and it's not my fault that things aren't happening the right way for me. And he left for a year and ended up coming back here. And that insight of knowing what he was missing and coming and asking for help and asking for advice, asking for network opportunities, and then finally landing a position when he graduated was probably the sweetest thing I'd seen.
That was great.
That's great.
That was great. I know you got a recruit coming. Is there anything we missed or anything you'd like to add?
To me, it's about, and all of us here, it's about the relationships that you build with these students. Without those relationships, the trust doesn't occur and the growth and development doesn't happen. So that's what we're about here. That's what our culture is here at Iowa. And we'll continue developing that over time.
Perfect.
One more thing, now that this is over, can you just say that that's what we're about here, that's our culture here? The last 3 lines, if you can just say that, I'm happy.
The relationships that we nurture with our student athletes, that is really what it is about here for us. That's our culture. It's not about winning, it's about helping students grow and develop. That's what we're about.
Perfect.
Is that okay?
That's great.
That was great.
That was really good.
Thank you very much. Sorry for all the
It's a
false
good day.
starts.